we bring in the esteemed columnist from the Regina Leader-Post, Rob Vanstone, the author of many fantastic books, joining us today from his palatial South Regina estate. How you doing, RV?
Well, except for the absence of a palatial South Regina estate, I'm doing pretty well. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for coming on today and chatting ball with us.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, so what do you think of this news? I didn't see this coming today. What do you think about what we're hearing out of Manitoba?
It's encouraging to a degree, given all the uncertainty about whether the CFL is going to be able to go ahead. Without major bucks to the tune of probably upwards of $40 million from the federal government, none of this would really matter. But at least there haven't been many signs of progress lately. The discussions between the CFL and the CFLPA have not been going overly smoothly. There's been signs of rancor. If you look at some players' Twitter accounts, Brandon Banks said that he's just not going to play until 2021. You wonder if it's worth the while of players to play for 1/3 of their salaries, especially if they're American players, and you convert that 1/3 of, say, $60,000 to $70,000 in some cases to American money. Is it really worth it? There's hurdles to clear, and suddenly time has become of the essence. Late July has really crept up on us.
You know, RV, I almost feel like, because you and I have been around a little bit, that we hear all the rancor, great point, by the way, and all the vacillations. But it seems when the push comes to shove and they have to check yes or no, the majority is going to check yes. That's a sense that I have. And even that's not a guarantee that they're going to play. But do you not think that, as they say, empty barrels make the most noise, or 10% of the people make 90% of the noise?
I think ultimately they will. In some cases, what are the alternatives but to play? And maybe they look at it from the standpoint of, if they don't play this year, how viable are they as a player next year? If you're out of the game for 2 years, does that lessen you as a player at all? So maybe it's best to still be in there. But I still think there's going to be some players who decide that on their own that they don't want to go ahead. There's just so many questions. The one that really resonates with me is, given the economics, can the CFL pull off a hermetically sealed bubble? The NFL, you would think, certainly has the wherewithal to do that. The large professional sports leagues would seem to be able to have the facilities to do that. You look at Orlando, you've got everything contained. Can the CFL financially, even with government assistance, offer the promise that bubble will indeed be secure? And we're seeing, even in the United States, within these supposed bubbles, if you look at Major League Soccer, you're still getting players who are being diagnosed with COVID-19. You just wonder about the safety factor, regardless of how many precautions can be taken.
I tell you what, I appreciate our viewers helping us out as we have coffee here every morning, and you know how we do it, RV. Nelson writes in and he says, Brian Pallister just put the CFL on blast. Quote, I would say to the CFL, you better move pretty quickly, because we're going to move to try to attract some hockey events. So it's not like he's working with the CFL per se. He's like, let's go, guys. Let's get with it. Has the CFL been with it in your mind over the last 3 months?
It's tough to say. I mean, if you listen to some of the players, I know they've been impatient, and they've been the ones who've been going without any compensation, as you've written repeatedly. So I can understand that there's impatience there. But if you're looking at it from the standpoint of Randy Ambrosie, what can they do until they know that there's federal money? And the bid to the federal government goes back to May. Now, the initial bid, at least the public one, wasn't the strongest overall. It was certainly laden with holes, and it was rather incomplete given the lack of input from or involvement with the players. So that was a flawed bid. But they've been working on this since the spring. But until they get that money, there's nothing they can do. And here we are, that self-imposed, presumably malleable deadline is July 23rd. And here we are on July 20th, and uncertainty still reigns, much as it did a few months ago.
Am I beating that drum too loudly in defense of the players, RV? I mean, it's because I support them, but the other thing is I want people to know what's going on. Like, there have been people writing in on Facebook saying, Rod, they're not playing. Why should they get paid? Everybody else is getting paid.
They are the show, and ordinarily they would be a few, comfortably into the season now, and they would be getting paychecks, and there would have been bonuses that many of them receive contingent upon reporting to training camp and passing a physical, and so some of those bonuses would have been due in May, and here we are 2 months after training camp was to start, and they haven't gotten any money, and they're certainly not the most affluent professional athletes in general. So I can understand why the players feel somewhat jilted, and I can understand why you feel as you do. That players are paid on the basis of when they play, and there's no game, so the CFL to a degree is justified. But you just wonder if there was some way of providing some money to them to just hold them over. Now, the counter argument to that is that rosters haven't been declared, and what if this is 1998, and you presume Bobby Jurisen's position is safe, but suddenly he doesn't make the team. So can you pay players on the presumption that they're going to make the team? We really don't know what the roster is going to be. You can probably name 30 players who are going to be on every roster right now, but what about the 12, 13, 14 that are bubble guys? On the weaker teams, there may be more than that. So who do you pay if you decide to pay the players?
Well, I'll say this. Anybody who's under contract, I feel, should get something. Players are independent contractors. I think we all know that, particularly CFL players. Jeff Heck doesn't have a deal right now, nor does Derek Dennis. They wouldn't be getting money, but that's no different than any other year. You got to go find a job. Again, I'm on the players' side. Maybe it's rankled some people, but I'm not there for how it looks. I'm there for the players. Now, by the way, Cal Filson's watching. He's the head scout for Seattle, and he runs Bidsy. He says, sub 200-pound RV looks great. We're getting to that. Brian Warrishan from the BC Lions Den podcast writes in, and he says, players that want game film for their NFL aspirations will play. I agree. And if they have a vote, those CFL rookies that are coming from America, I believe that they will vote in favor of playing. I'm thinking that come Thursday, the players will have voted, but there's still a few more hoops to get to. RV, what are your thoughts on the NFL, NHL, Major League Baseball, all the other leagues as to where they are as we sit here today on July the 20th?
Well, the NFL doesn't seem to be on as solid a ground as one would have thought a few weeks ago. You're sensing some discomfort among the players about whether that's a safe environment, an understandable discomfort. Looks like Major League Baseball is going to go ahead. You haven't heard many glitches as far as the National Hockey League. We're still wondering why Sidney Crosby isn't practicing with the Penguins. And there's been some instances of COVID-19 in the NHL. NBA looks like that's going to go ahead. My concern isn't as much if they're going to be able to start, because it looks like that's inevitable, but can they finish? What if there's a second wave? What if the fall is what some experts project it to be? What if these leagues get off the ground or get to the point where they can be within a week or two of the culmination of their seasons, and then for whatever reason the prevalence of COVID makes it unsustainable? We just don't know what enemy is being fought here. And so I think you have to kind of very tentatively and with fingers crossed, put your toe in the water and hope you can go ahead. It looks like things are going to start. My major question is, can they finish? What if you're 2 or 3 weeks into a season and some big stars contract COVID? What then? It only took one player, one athlete, that being Rudy Gobert of the Utah Jazz and the NBA, for not only sports to be shut down, but so much to be done societally as far as shutting down. Now you've got a more widespread affliction with COVID among athletes, and everybody's going ahead, but there's testing in place, etc., and there's bubbles, but that has been proven not to be airtight. Now, what happens when you get more athletes together? What happens when they start colliding with one another? Then how can they proceed? I hope they can. It'd be lovely to see sports. It's our livelihood. But I don't think anybody's really sure what's down the road, even a week from now, the way this has been going.
No, and those leagues have unlimited funding, unlimited resources. There's no doubt. They could overcome it or wait or bring more players in. CFL doesn't have that luxury. So my next question to you is this. Whose side do you stand on? Mine that the CFL not playing in 2020 could be fatal without Ottawa financial aid, or Arash and Dave Naylor that say they could survive, the league could survive without playing in 2020? What do you think?
I think they could survive. There's obviously no certainties, but teams aren't going to make money by playing this year. It's just a matter of scale and whether how much money you lose by playing as opposed to by not playing. What if the federal government shovels a bunch of money at the CFL and then a week or two into the season, the worst fears are confirmed and they can't proceed? Then a lot of money has been given to something that can't have a conclusion. And I think that's an understandable apprehension. I would be of the mindset, let's just take a step back and try and do it right for 2021. And there's no assurances 2021 is going to be perfect. The government has said that projected that more large gatherings won't be permissible until the spring of 2021 at the earliest. Without a vaccine, who knows? But I would think that the safest course and perhaps the most prudent one would be just to gear everything toward 2021. People said when the NHL missed an entire season that would really be a step back for them. And they went an entire year without playing a game and were able to make a go of it after. And there was a lot of talk then about the league's viability, especially in the United States. But they've done okay. I don't think the CFL would there'd certainly be some hardships that they would endure. But for the sake of the six game season and et cetera, I'm not sure if it's going to be viable. I would rather kind of take a step back and let's really dig into 2021. That said, I'd sure love to see some football this year.
Well, we're getting close to the rubber meets the road in terms of Thursday's deadline. We'll know a lot by Thursday or on Thursday. RV, congrats on hitting sub 200, as Cal wrote in. You're an inspiration to many. I'm sure it feels good to hear that from everybody that's cheering you on. How low can you go, by the way? This is like the limbo. How low can you go or do you want to go with your weight?
I've been asked that question with regards to my columns.
Yes.
My aspiration is to get to 180, which I have not weighed since
high school.
My first semester at journalism school, which is 1985. So that's where I'd like to be. I weighed 170 when I got into journalism school, so I'm giving myself 10 pounds just due to age, etc. But as of 2 hours ago, I was 197.8. So I'd like to get to 180 and then see where I am there. I went to the doctor Friday morning. All my blood sugar numbers were just smashing. So that was really encouraging. So it was kind of the impetus for one big push to get to 180, which I can't even fathom right now. I couldn't have fathomed 250 4 months ago.
Hey, your wife ought to take you shopping for new clothes, like when you guys first got together. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. We went to several places, and I got impatient because I hate buying clothes. So it was one of the first signs of my temper during our relationship when we went buying clothes, because I just had no time for the process. And now I just find if I find a pair of pants that fits, for example, I'll buy 6 more pairs that have the exact same dimensions. I just don't like to shop around. Clothes buying just drives me nuts. I buy lots of hats, though. My New York Mets hat is on the way, and so are my Denver Broncos masks. But buying clothes, there's some that I can just fit into that I haven't had a chance to wear since 2012 when I was last below 200. That was for about 3 days. I celebrated with a pizza, and you can imagine how that went. So I've got some old clothes that an Andrew Brunette Minnesota Wild t-shirt. That's not obsolete at all, is it? And so I'll probably sport those duds before I work up the courage to go clothes shopping. I do need a new suit, though. This is a good excuse to do it. Colin O'Brien's is my suggestion. But thank heavens for those Greek women, by the way. They are very patient, clearly. You and I are both proof of that. Hey, lastly, what are your thoughts on Kings Park Motor Speedway? Everybody out there at the track on Saturday had read your column in the Leader Post. They were very excited about the coverage. And how did you enjoy getting out there and doing the coverage and so forth? That was so much fun. I interviewed the Fink family. 8 members of that family are involved in stock car racing. There's now been 4 generations of Finks out there, three different presidents, including the current president, Jeff Fink. I got there to do the story, and they said, "Okay, just drive onto the track where we were taking a picture." And I said, "Can I do a lap?" So here I am in my 2010 Cobalt, riding the brakes all the way around the track at Kings Park Speedway. It had to be the slowest lap in the history of that speedway, and it was so cool to stand on the track. I took a selfie standing there. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the people. It was so nice to write about something that's coming up, that's a sporting event that is imminent, as opposed to a lot of the issues that we discuss, and there's so much uncertainty. And they're really great people, and it's amazing the things that have been done since 1967 to keep that track going. I know there have been some perilous times, and it can't be easy now with a maximum capacity of 150. But with devoted flag wavers and flag bearers such as yourself, flag droppers, what's the right term?
Flagman, I've learned,
Flagman. With people pitching in and rallying around them, it's nice to see a local sport going, just like it was to go watch fastball the other night. I might go out there again tonight just to watch some fastball at Kaplan Field. It's such a tonic to see some sports again. The major leagues have yet to commence or restart, but there's some signs around town and around the province that there is a semblance of normalcy, and it's certainly welcomed and overdue.
It does feel good for sure. RV, thanks for the time. Keep going, my friend.
You bet. Thanks for your time, Rod. Take care.
Rob Vanstone of the Regina Leader-Post joining us here on the program today.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.